Now, before we start with red and white lesion, we should know what causes the color of the mucosa. You all know that the color of mucosa is pink. You know, light actually is incident on the normal mucosa, the translucent epithelium, and it is reflected by the underlying connective tissue, the vascular connective tissue, and again it passes through the translucent epithelium and reaches the eyes of the observer. So that causes the pink color to the mucosa. And it depends on the epithelial thickness, the degree of keratinization, concentration and dilatation of blood vessels in the connective tissue, and the amount of melanin pigmentation in the epithelium. So any change in the epithelial thickness, keratinization, the blood vessel in the connective tissue or melanin pigmentation can result in colored lesions in the oral mucosa. So let us see what causes white lesion. So the reasons are hyperkeratosis, as we see in leukoplakia, and acanthosis or thickening of the stratum spinosum, leukodema, which is due to the accumulation of fluid in epithelium, or necrosis of the oral mucosa, which occurs as a result of chemical burns. The other reasons are pseudomembrane, which is produced by Candida. Dysplastic changes with carcinoma can also present as a white lesion. And as you all know, oral submucous fibrosis, the increased fibrosis and reduction in vascularity also presents as a white lesion. Production of abnormal keratins, which imbibe more fluid than the surrounding keratinized mucosa, also presents as a white lesion. So these are the reasons for white lesions. All this you have to write in your introduction. Now, let us see what makes a lesion red. It could be due to atrophic epithelium, increased vascularization, blood vessel dilatation, extravasation of blood, or increasing hemoglobin concentration as it occurs in polycythemia. Now, I have put red and white lesions classified under infectious diseases, pre-malignant lesions, immunopathological diseases under which all the oral lichenoid reactions come in, and the allergic reactions, toxic reactions, reactions to mechanical trauma such as Mosquito bacterium. Then we have the miscellaneous red and white lesion, including benign migratory glossitis, leukodema, white sponge nevus, and hairy tongue. Now, before we start with explaining each of them, we have to know what oral potential malignant disorders are, under which you have to classify them into potentially malignant lesions, including leukoplakia, erythroplakia, etc., and potentially malignant conditions, including oral submucous fibrosis, lichen planus, actinic keratosis, syphilis, etc. See, these lesions and conditions are very important. Very important in your exam. When you are asked about the usual question that comes as a long answer question is classify red and white lesions, and then you will be asked to describe the clinical features, the pathology, etiopathogenesis, then differential diagnosis, management, and investigations and management of either lichen planus, oral submucous fibrosis, or leukoplakia, or even candidiasis. So these lesions can be asked along with the LAQ, or any of these 4 lesions can come as an SAQ also. So you have to prepare these 4 lesions perfectly. Now coming on to candidiasis. I'm not able to go to the next. Candidiasis, as you all know, it is the most prevalent opportunistic infection in the oral mucosa. It is a normal commensal in the oral cavity, but only when predisposing factors such as immunosuppression, illness, cancer set in, then the candida colonize to give a condition called candidiasis. It affects all ages, and there are 2 types of candidiasis: primary or oral candidiasis, secondary or systemic candidiasis. Now you can classify the predisposing factors as local and general. Local could be danger, use of danger, usually ill-fitting danger, excessive use of topical or steroids or antibiotics, smoking, orthodontic appliance, any imbalance in the oral microflora, xerostomia or excessive salivation can also contribute to local predisposing factors causing candidiasis. General can be the infancy and old age, immunosuppression, drugs, systemic antibiotics and steroids, radiotherapy, endocrine disorders, hematinic deficiencies, or any nutritional deficiencies. deficiencies can contribute to oral candidiasis. Now, there are different species of Candida in the oral cavity: Candida albicans, tropicalis, glabrata. Now, how do they colonize? They produce lipases which penetrate the epithelium and adhere to the epithelial surface. So, when we use an antifungal agent, it prevents the adhesion of these fungal mycelia onto the epithelium. Now, you can classify candidiasis as acute and chronic. Acute can be acute pseudomembranous, which is called thrush. Acute erythematous is called antibiotic sore mouth. Chronic erythematous is called denture sore mouth. And there are candida-associated lesions such as angular cheilitis, median rhomboid glossitis, and denture sore mouth. Now, oral thrush is the classic type of candida infection in the oral cavity, which is very commonly seen, or otherwise it's called acute pseudomembranous candidiasis because of the pseudomembrane that is formed, which is actually due to destruction of the superficial layers of epithelium. So what we can see diffuse, curd-like, bluish white, loosely attached patches which can be scraped off. And once we scrape off, what remains is a raw, eroded, inflamed, painful bleeding area. Now, how do we manage? By antifungals, both polyenes, azoles, and even chlorhexidine actually prevents the adhesion of the fungal mycelia onto the epithelium. Okay. Acute erythematous candidiasis or antibiotic sore mouth that occurs as a result of prolonged use of broad-spectrum antibiotics because it depletes the normal oral flora. Also, you can see that in the asthmatic patients who use inhalation steroids, those who smoke, and in chronic iron deficiency. So what we see here is the atrophy of epithelium, the diffuse borders, the raw and erythematous painful areas with smooth borders. It can coexist with angular cheilitis and thrush also. So you manage by changing the antibiotic or discontinue the antibiotic. You have to reset the oral flora with Neutralin B or Visilac or any probiotic, also with antifungal medication. Now, chronic erythematous candidiasis or denture sore mouth is very common in the maxillary denture-bearing mucosa, usually with an ill-fitting denture, because the candida can colonize comfortably between the denture as well as the maxillary denture-bearing mucosa. Patient will have soreness. Also, that area is not cleansed well with saliva. There are different types of denture sore mouth. Type 1, which is localized with pinpoint hyperemia. Type 2, which is diffuse. And type 3, which gives the granular pattern. Like you can see here, is otherwise known as palatal papillary hyperplasia, giving an overripe strawberry appearance. Now, to manage here, actually, it is not enough if you treat the maxillary denture-bearing mucosa. You have to treat the denture also. You have to refabricate the denture if it is ill-fitting, or the very denture you have to treat in antifungal solution. At the same time, you have to use topical antifungal agent on the mucosa. If there is no response, you have to go for a systemic antifungal agent. Angular cheilitis can be due to various factors. One can be due to iron deficiency anemia, or it could be due to reduced vertical dimension, which results in folds that form here at the angle of the mouth or the commissural area where the candida colonizes comfortably. And it also coexists with denture sore mouth. So actually we have to find out the reason. If it is iron deficiency anemia, you have to treat for that. Dentures will have to be refabricated along with application of antifungal agent in the commissural region. Now, median rhomboid glossitis, as you all know, is otherwise known as central papillary atrophy of tongue. There are different schools of thought. One is that developmental anomaly because of the persistence of tuberculum impar, or it could be due to diabetes mellitus due to lack of nutrition or vascular supply to the central dorsal area of the tongue, or it could be due to candidiasis. If it is candidiasis, it is very common to see a kissing lesion on the palate wherever the tongue is in contact with the palatal region. Now, chronic hyperplastic candidiasis, otherwise called as Candida leukoplakia recently, it is a chronic plaque type or nodular candidiasis, and usually seen in the commissural or retrocommissural area. The The importance is that it has high malignant potential and it has to be treated with antifungals and retinoids simultaneously. Now coming to the secondary or extraoral candidiasis, which is often seen in the orificial areas like moist folds around the groin, submammillary folds. It can even affect organs such as lungs, the liver, kidney and the heart valves. Now chronic mucocutaneous candidiasis occurs due to defect in the cell-mediated immunity. It can be familial CMC, diffuse CMC, candidiasis, endocrinopathy syndrome, or one of late onset. Also in Chidiac-Higashi syndrome, which is a congenital neutropenic disorder, and also in thymoma. Now, when you write an SLAQ or an SAQ on candidiasis, you have to add up with the investigations also. Lab investigation in candidiasis can be asked as a short answer question. So you have to be prepared for that. The simplest way is a KOH prep. That is to prepare a smear on a slide with 20% potassium hydroxide and examine it in the microscope to see the fungal mycelia. You can do gram staining or periodic acid staining also. You can do a fungal culture with Severod's dextrose agar when you get such creamy colonies, or cornmeal agar or chrome agar culture can also be used for diagnosis of candida, or to know which candidal organism is involved and to treat it appropriately. Now, candidiasis is not complete unless we discuss about ETH reaction or monolith reaction, which is just a hypersensitivity reaction to the candidal antigen, and it can occur in the perioral site. So there is no organism found in these lesions as such, and it resolves easily with antifungals.